Kia ora koutou and welcome to Ōtautahi City Voices, where we listen to Ōtautahi during the COVID-19 pandemic by interviewing city makers and community leaders. We are interested in hearing from a diversity of voices about what people discovered when we were under lockdown in Ōtautahi and how it influenced or galvanised their vision for the city. I'm Jessica Halliday. I'm the director of Te Pūtahi, Centre for Architecture and City Making. Today I'm talking with Khye Hitchcock, Program Director for the Green Lab and an independent curator. Kia ora, Khye.
Kia ora, Jessica.
Welcome, and thank you so much for being part of Ōtautahi City Voices. It'd be great if you could start us off by telling us something about who you are, what you do, and what your passion is.
Oh, kia ora. I'm Khye, and my pronouns are they, them. I am a first-generation tangata tiriti. My parents immigrated from England the year I was born in 1986, and I have been in Ōtautahi for the last 5 years. I live with my partner Siobhan, and we have her son part-time, Jamie. And at the Green Lab, I'm program director. The Green Lab originated as Greening the Rubble post-quakes and has evolved into an organisation that works alongside communities to develop green spaces which facilitate community connection. Yeah.
Cool. So would you say placemaking is your passion, or is it something you're just currently doing now? What is your passion?
I think my passion has always been working towards a more equitable and kinder society for everybody, and placemaking is a really great tool in that end goal. My background is in contemporary art, and the kind of programming that I do when I'm working in that space, I guess, is similar. So it's very collaborative. It looks at working alongside and with communities to develop things that serve them or encourage their participation in civic life. So that's, I guess, is the thing that underpins my mahi is creating a kind of world in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And that's super important to me because I'm queer and I have that lived experience of being part of a minority, and I know that my minority stresses comparatively are not the same as others who are more systemically disadvantaged as me. So those are the things that motivate me, that keep me doing this mahi.
Kia ora. So what part of the city were you in lockdown in Ōtautahi back in March, April, May?
I'm in Edgware, pretty close to the Ōtakaro Avon River corridor, the red zone. So able to walk around that beautiful area in the city. And it's now currently sort of almost reverted to post-quake road cone central with all the roadworks. So it's been a little bit of a shock, actually.
Yeah. So thinking back to that time when Ōtautahi was in lockdown, what have you discovered or learnt about our city, or about any part of the many communities you're part of during lockdown and the COVID-19 pandemic?
I think for me it was really that sort of deep exploration of our immediate environment on foot that was really meaningful. I was aware of one or two of the community gardens nearby, but like I discovered on a walk with Jamie that Pack Street is, that community garden there is definitely within walking distance, and very, very well established with a community that looks like it's loved it for a really long time. And there's one at Moa Street as well that looks like it's just, Moa Place rather, I think, is just well underway with that sort of thing. So discovering that there's a lot of community initiatives that are happening in these very small pockets that are maybe not necessarily connected to each other was quite interesting as somebody interested in that kind of placemaking. I know there's a community garden network, but I don't know how much the groups talk to each other. So that was quite interesting. The other thing that I found really, really different actually was walking around the red zone, because that's something that I do a lot. I walk most weekends and I do a lot of walks around the area, but like the population of folk that lived close enough to use that area for recreation during the lockdown was actually kind of mind-blowing. Is you walk down these sections of road or path that, you know, before lockdown you see like 2 or 3 people max in a sort of half an hour walk, and you know, you go down there during lockdown and there's 30 or 40 people. It was like these previously isolated areas were suddenly sort of swarming with people, and I think after that there has definitely been an increase in use of those areas because people discovered them during lockdown because it was within their little bubble radius. So,
Yeah, that's so true. In that, I think that sounds like that's one of the things that surprised you about your lockdown experience was how proximate so many people are to, in particular, that 600 hectares of
mm,
residential red zone, and even just presumably the bit that's proximate to Edgware.
mm,
Um, yeah, that, and it just makes you think differently about how parts of the city could serve those communities that are proximate to them.
mm.
Yeah. So thinking about all of that, what are your key lockdown fears, or what are you most concerned about, worried about as a result of the pandemic?
Overall, I think there's a real possibility that this pandemic is going to exacerbate the difference between those that have and those that haven't, that have not. The inequity is already really high in this country, and I mean globally as well. And it's been a navigation for lots of different people as to how they survive the pandemic, not just from I don't want to catch it and possibly, you know, deal with the physical effects of this virus, but actually like, how do I survive this financially when my business is going under, or my work is no longer viable because we can't be socially connected. Being involved in community co-design during a pandemic, when, you know, everything that we sort of do is around creating moments for connection and knowing that that's something that's vital, you know, that puts questions over, I guess, how do you continue doing that? And I know that, yeah, looking ahead, because so many things have changed and we're going to have to imagine a new way of being in a world that's probably going to be affected by this virus for a significant period of time, that how are we going to look after our most vulnerable members of society? And I guess my big fear is that this kind of time frame, these kind of pressures often lead to fear-based decision making rather than like forward-based decision making. And yeah, as you know, as part of a minority, but you know, just as a person who cares about other people, that scares me, because you see the rise of, you know, extremist groups and things like that that are propagating, yeah, sowing seeds of mistrust and yeah, a real scarcity economy,
Mm.
which puts a lot of pressure on it.
Um, it's really interesting thinking about the work that you do with the Green Lab, and that power of the kind of placemaking that the Green Lab does to connect people, and yet you're in a situation where that's become increasingly difficult, and in fact the need to connect people um, in a meaningful way, and in a way that allows you to experience and connect with people who are different to you, as well as those who are similar to you, is really heightened at the moment, because it is, of course, one of the solutions to the fear and to the extremism is closer communities, better connected communities.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thinking about all that, do you think this experience has changed your hope or dream for Ōtautahi? And what is your hope or dream for Ōtautahi Christchurch?
I don't know that it's changed my hopes and dreams for Ōtautahi, but I think it's galvanise them further. We actually had just moved onto a project site. We'd literally moved our workspace onto a site the day before lockdown, and we were supposed to start community build with the Hornby Community Centre and their volunteers that day, and we went into lockdown. And picking that up when we were able to, when it went back to level 2 and then subsequently level 1, and working with the community, just seeing how much of an impact can be made with a group of volunteers, really feeling like they're making a difference to their community and creating something for their grandchildren. It really galvanised that need for the kind of mahi that we do. I think really for me, Ōtautahi is still a city which is quite divided by access and inequity, and I think finding whatever ways we can to close those gaps and to bring everyone along together rather than some people rocketing off in front and others being left behind, I think is what we need to work on. So
Yeah.
all the small steps towards that still feel really vitally important, and how we deliver that might change, but I think that's still the thing that underpins the mahi that I'm doing and that we're doing at the Green Lab.
Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight how the work you do works towards more equitable neighbourhoods across the city. And I think about how in the many years that placemaking has been active and flourishing in Ōtautahi, and this is the first project I personally have heard of that's based in Hornby. You know, it seems that being able to find ways to meaningfully support communities that are overlooked and underserved continues to be really important. And will that be a continual way in which you and the Green Lab will work towards that dream? Is it in particular, are you interested in working with those underserved communities whose neighbourhoods have less amenity or less opportunity for community growth and development?
We try and leverage our grant funding and our capacity to work with those communities. If you look at the community co-design projects we've done, we've worked in Linwood and Phillipstown and now Hornby, and we're doing stuff in Richmond, which is a slightly different context. But yeah, we are constantly looking to find ways to partner with groups that do need our help, rather than just those that might give them a boost, but they already are on their way. It's always a balance, seeking collaborations which enable us to continue working with those communities. Sometimes means that we work alongside folk that have more resources that can help us then, balance those resources and take them to other communities. So it's a balancing act, but yes, our preference is to be working, especially with our core funding in those areas which are still regenerating post-quakes and are going to be even, back in that situation post-COVID or during COVID, as we seem to still be.
Yeah, and it sounds, so if I understand it correctly, that collaboration with an existing neighbourhood group is a really vital part of how you work in those communities.
Yeah, the ones that are the most successful draw on like an existing, either a residents association or community trusts or groups that have already got a network of people that are kind of invested in bringing their community forward, and that those relationships that they hold and their local knowledge is what we sort of draw upon and work alongside them to create whatever design comes out of a process of various hui and wider surveying within the local community. So yeah, it definitely does help to have an organisation that's kind of already formed and ready to go. Although I guess there's always the possibility that at some point some individual will come to us and go, I've got this really great idea, and they'll be able to bring people in alongside them from their community without the I guess, umbrella of a wider organisation.
Yeah. Kia ora. Oh, that's so fascinating. Kai, I feel like we could talk about this all afternoon, but I have to draw it. But I have to draw it to a close. Thank you so much. It has been so good to hear from you today. How do people find you or the organisation you work with online?
So you can find us on Facebook or Instagram. It's the Green Lab NZ, or our website is thegreenlab.co.nz.
Great. So it's been such a pleasure talking with you today. And thanks to those of you who are watching or listening, please send in your feedback, share your views or your vision for Ōtautahi now. We'd love to hear from you. So it's goodbye from Kai.
Ka kite. Thanks for having me.
A pleasure. And it's goodbye from me. Ka kite anō.